To me, being a villain means you can see the rules that are just made up and that don't actually need to be followed. You can see what is ultimately what is in service, what is the best outcome, what it is that you want to create. And so you just do that, regardless of whether it breaks the rules and regardless of whether there are people who are all like about the fact that you're breaking the rules.
Welcome. This is Leading with Spirit, the show that gives you an in-depth look at topics like what it takes to navigate your spiritual journey, how to heal yourself and grow your spiritual gifts, and balanced practices to expand your business and your spiritual leadership. I'm your host, Spirit Bird, shamanic teacher, healer, and author, here to guide you on your journey to becoming your most potent spiritual leader. Have you ever had a big transcendent experience? Maybe it was an experience out in nature. Maybe it was a spontaneous spiritual awakening. Maybe it was an experience with psychedelics, but a big life-changing event that you don't know how to work with, or that when you got back to your ordinary daily life, created this big divide that was really frustrating and hard to navigate. For many of us, when we've had those big experiences, this is a common experience afterwards is, oh my gosh, I had this amazing experience and now I'm stuck here in my regular life, in my regular job with the same old problems. And I just want to get back to that experience. Today, we're going to be talking with Betsi Oliver. Betsi Oliver is our guest and has a specialty in helping you integrate those big experiences into your daily life so you can show up as who you really are, so you can take your life to the next level. And so we're going to be hearing directly from her some of the best ways to work with that energy and how you can integrate those experiences into your regular life so that you can actually see the changes and you don't have to have that experience be separate from who you are and some place you need to get back to. We're also going to hear directly from her around how she has worked some of this medicine into her life through some of her own direct experience. Can't wait to share this with you today. Before we get started, I wanted to share with you a new opportunity we have here specifically for plant medicine practitioners. So if you're a plant medicine practitioner and you're looking to really hone in on your unique medicine, you're going to want to learn more about our newest program and offering called Spirit Led. This is for you if you are ready to reinvent yourself as a ceremonialist, really using your unique gifts and your unique medicine to create specialized experiences that are unlike any other practitioner. Or if you have some training, but you're still experiencing a little bit of doubt or lack of confidence on bringing your gifts forward, whether you really meant to do this work or how to do it in a way that's authentic and in integrity. We're helping you, again, tune into your unique gifts so you're not mimicking the shaman that you learned from another lineage, and you don't have to act clinical to feel like you can be received or respected, and help you land in yourself, the magic that you carry, and walk you through this entirely immersive experience that not only is going to change your life, but is going to help you put together a ceremony that is exactly in alignment with this higher vision that you have for yourself and also for your clients. So be sure to follow the links for Spirit Led or reach out to me at grow@holdenhealingarts.com if you want to get more information. This is a really small specialized program, so we won't be advertising it everywhere. You'll probably need to reach out directly to me to learn more. Now, on with the show. Hello and welcome. I have with me today Betsi Oliver. Betsi Oliver, actually, and I go back a few years. We met when we both lived in Anchorage, Alaska. And I've always been completely delighted by who she is as a person and her ability to really connect with people and help see and bring out who they are. And Betsi Oliver is now an audacity coach, among many things, a certified facilitator. She's a ceremonialist. She's also an author of an amazing new book that we're going to talk about today. Welcome, Betsi.
Huh? So good to be back with you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So let me see, where do we start? Tell me a little bit about being an audacity coach. I love that term.
Yeah, me too. Thanks. I've been coaching for many years, and before that, I was a leadership mentor, community organizer, wilderness guide. So I've been working with people through their transformation process my whole life. And when I started coaching and really working with women one on one, what I kept seeing was that there's one level of comfort in doing inner work in secret, in private. You with your journal, you with your spiritual practice, or maybe with a coach or a shaman, or maybe if you're, for those who feel really lucky, having a like close, intimate medicine family or sangha of some kind. But then there was this huge barrier between that version of themselves that they were cultivating and the daily lives they were living, and wanting to know, how do I bring that out into the world? And oh my gosh, so many barriers and blocks pop up. Our nervous system is like alarm bells going off. Everyone starts freaking out about it. And is that's where the concept of audacity comes in, because it takes some audacity, some bravado, some willingness to change how you're showing up in the world to break through that barrier. So that's the work that I do now. I specifically work with women who, I do a lot of different kinds of work and I work with a lot of different people. But as an audacity coach, I'm helping women reground in that boldness of, yeah, I'm done playing small. I'm done doing this stuff in secret. And I'm ready to really bring it out into the world. And I'm eager to know how to do that. And I really want support from other women who are doing that as well.
I love that. I personally know how powerful it is to work and grow in groups. I like to do my own little quiet secret inner work too. And I know that for me, the biggest leaps have usually been when I'm seen and witnessed by other people, even though it might be a little bit scary at first.
It's
And
actually, I think that scary is a really important part of it, to feel a little bit of that scary and then to see how it goes and to be like, wow, not only did I not die, but it was actually well received and it created positive things for other people. Okay, this gives me the confidence and the courage to do more of that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I also love that you just call out the word audacity because I'm fully for doing things in a way that are easy to integrate into our lives so that we can actually have those changes. And we'll talk more about how you can do that. And I feel like with a lot of language around getting spiritual healing, getting life coaching, a lot of the way people talk about it is that they use those hot words like with ease and with flow and do it naturally. And it presents this idea that if it's hard, you're probably doing it wrong. And I don't think that's fair at all. And I think probably most actual coaches and most people that have made big leaps in their personal growth know that they had to work hard and also they had to just go ahead and claim it.
exactly. Yeah, it becomes its own barrier when you are waiting for it to feel safe before you do the thing that your soul is calling you to do.
I love that. I love that you call that out and that energy is automatically or inherently in what you do so people can understand, yeah, I got to actually take the first step in the first place.
It's fierce work. Yeah.
So you wrote a book this year that I want to talk about, and I want to talk about like how people can use this resource, and it's called Honor Your Medicine. So I want to hear a little bit about that, but I know that the way it came through to you was a little bit unusual. Can we start there?
So fun. So it started coming through for me in this rapid paced, high energy series of downloads. Things I literally had paper towels that I was filling. I only had one, I was traveling, I was staying in a hotel. I had one paper towel. I'm like writing super tiny on all sides to try to just capture all the things that were coming through. And I was like, okay, this is a book that needs to be written, that's asking to be written. Um, but the timing was such that I did not have the time right then in my calendar to invest in writing it.
Mhm.
So I made a commitment to myself and to this book that wanted to be written, that I was going to do it. I remember very specifically it was after tax season is over. So tax season came and went. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to honor this commitment to myself. And I knew that this, because of the way it had come through so hot initially a few months before, I was like, this needs to be written all at once. All the writing advice out there is get up an hour early and write a little bit every day. And I was like, that just doesn't work for me. I am a hyper focused, it all comes through at once or else it doesn't happen kind of person. So I blocked off 5 days on my calendar, booked an Airbnb, went to this space, and I did nothing but write my book. I would take walks out in nature to clear my head. I would feed myself. It was actually great. I did a Ayurvedic dietary cleanse right beforehand. So when I went into this self-organized writing retreat, I wasn't having sugar cravings. I wasn't having caffeine cravings. Then if I did have some caffeine, it was like supercharging me. It was a really beautiful way to set myself up to just be a clear channel for this coming through. And I got the whole thing written in 4 days.
That's totally incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that leaning into the inspiration when it's there. And I think it also just speaks to you're an intuitive person anyway, but I think it also speaks to the level of like observation and experience that you had prior to compiling this, because it obviously came from
Yeah,
a lot of, go ahead.
I wasn't really creating it for the first time as I was writing it. It was all work that I've been doing through my coaching and through my integration support work for many years. And I took to my Airbnb, I took 2 giant boxes of books because my library is full of the literature, right, about integration and about plant medicine and living a life based on spirit. And so it felt like I was surrounded by my teachers because I had these piles of books all around me. And when it was the right moment, I knew exactly which book to pull off the shelf and flip through and be like, oh, yeah, okay, that was the next piece of these thoughts that have been developing inside of me and developing in the work I've been offering for many years. Oh, yeah, boom, it would just connect me right back in to that. Yeah.
So what would you say that this resource is really best used for?
So the subtitle of the book is a workbook for self-guided psychedelic integration. And plant medicine, psychedelic medicines have always been a part of my path, or they were, especially in the beginning of my personal journey. And when I started coaching, although I wasn't specifically trying to do anything with psychedelics, I had this realization that about 50% of my clients had psychedelics as part of their personal growth journey as well. And the other half were all curious and or maybe not all of them, but there was also a lot of curiosity and interest in this. And so I really saw that because I had done so much work to integrate from my experiences, because it wasn't a given. The experiences that I'd had didn't just automatically translate into me living the life that I wanted to live. I had to put in a lot of intention and find teachers and find structures and new ways to think and new ways to be that actually brought me to be the person that I'd started sensing in those big transcendent moments. So I when I saw that a lot of my clients could use that same level of support, what I started creating this body of integration support work. So this book is taking that, what I've seen through my own journey, what I've seen through working with clients, what I've seen by being a part of the plant medicine community, that there are certain pillars of the journey that at some point everyone seems to bump into. So, like at some point, everybody looks at their relationship with their physical body and their health. And
Mm.
at some point, everyone looks at their relationship with the earth. And at some point, everyone starts looking at their relationship with their shadow aspects and the things they haven't been acknowledging or loving about their own selves, right? There's these pillars of things that happen. And so, what I found going through this on my own, I was like, the guidance that I was getting wasn't really guidance. It didn't actually help me figure out what to actually do. It was a lot of platitudes. It felt like a lot of like quotes from gurus kind of things. I was like, yeah, but okay, that sounds good. How do I actually do this in my day to day life? So, what I created in this book was for each of those pillars, there's a couple of paragraphs of introduction of here's the big concept. Here's what people in this space are talking about. There's a lot of quotes in there of other really incredible teachers and authors to give people a bit of a grounding
Mm.
of, okay, this is the concept. And then it goes straight into questions. It's interactive, it's a workbook. There's literal blank spaces in the book where you are intended to write right in the pages to explore what's my current relationship with this aspect? What's my current relationship with my body, with nature, with my shadow? And how is that evolving based on the powerful transcendent experience or experiences that I've been having?
Mm-hmm. And so people could use this not just for a psychedelic experience, but it sounds like any major experience that they've had.
Yeah, being a person in Alaska who has a very deep connection with the wilderness, some of my most profound experiences have actually been, epic mountain climbs or whitewater experiences, not even necessarily like a near death experience, but just a really profound moment where my sense of who I am shifts and my sense of my relationship with life shifts. And those are the moments that we want to integrate. When you suddenly see things a little differently, or maybe very differently, it's, whoa, life is not what I thought, or, oh, I am not who I thought. I'm so much bigger, I'm so much more, or there's so much more love available to me. And without integration, it's really easy for those experiences to end up on a shelf, like a vacation that we took, right? Oh, there was this really cool thing that happened. And integration is this commitment to not doing that, to not leaving it alone, to saying that moment of realization or of openness that I had, I want that to inform who I am every day in every moment.
Yeah, the way you say that with like being a book on the shelf or being this separate experience. I hear that in a lot of language, the way people talk about their experiences, like it's a place that they need to get back to. So it
Mm,
sounds like your approach to integration is really pulling that through and weaving it into their life. So it's just part of who they are all the time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What kind what would it be helpful for folks for where to start? I know you have this broken down into pillars, but can you say a little bit more about that?
Can you clarify the question a little bit, like where to start
Yeah,
from?
if they want to start weaving it into their experience or into their daily life so they can have that be part of who they are, what is a great first step for them?
Two things I would say. One is what I call a trip report. And trip comes from psychedelic language, but really for any powerful, profound experience that you've had, as soon as possible, writing down everything that you remember. Even if it was 10 years ago, this might be as soon as possible. And writing things down without analyzing it, without having to make sense of it yet, just capturing whatever you can remember, even if it's nonlinear, even if it's just a fleeting sense, a memory of almost just a feeling that you had or one word, capturing whatever you can. Because a lot of the challenge, if you will, but also the delight of these experiences is they're often really difficult to pin down into language or into something tangible. And so it can feel easy to throw up your hands and say, well, then I just won't do it because how could I possibly capture it? But actually, it's the process of asking your brain to do that, asking your brain to wrestle with it a little bit, to even maybe feel a little frustrated. That's the process that prompts our brain to grow and change and learn or
Mhm.
to remember more. So do that. The other really core piece that I start everybody with is actually the somatic piece, the embodiment level, to drop into your body, to learn how the language of your body speaks to you, to start to be more aware, even as simple as the sensation. As I'm speaking this, I'm becoming more of the sensation in my toes, like the temperature that my toes are feeling and the sensation of breathing. And it's that simple. I find a lot of people, if they're struggling with getting into embodiment, they're trying to make it more complex. They're expecting something like magical or different to happen. And it's as simple as just noticing what it feels like to be you and noticing the things that we usually tune out with our brains. And the reason I bring this in as such a foundational core practice is because there's so much intelligence in our bodies that's telling us things. So as we start our integration process, a lot of what we're trying to do is figure out what's for me and what's not for me, what's in alignment with my true self, and what's something that I've just been doing because it was my default or because I thought I had to or was supposed to. And it's actually our bodies that are going to tell us what's that yes or what's that no, what's opening up our energy and our flow, and what's shutting it down and putting it into our minds to try to control everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's incredible. The body is so intelligent and so
Yeah.
overlooked as an intuitive tool, I think.
Yeah.
It made me wonder along those lines. I love as you're sharing about using your body as the guide towards the alignment, the yeses and nos. How do you feel about, I don't know what my question is here, about is having a goal or a direction that you want to go helpful, or is it counterproductive when you're trying to integrate a big experience into your life? What do you think?
Yes, and
Yeah, yeah.
it can be both. There's a balance between having a direction to focus your intention and your attention. That's when you are doing that, when you're really focused on a goal, so to speak, that allows actual transformation and growth to happen in that space in a way that doesn't happen when we're trying to fix everything all at the same time and do a little bit of everything, or we're just whatever happens is will be the right thing. When we bring in focus, I love this phrase of where you put your intention and your attention will grow. That, and there can be a a restriction that happens when people are attached to a specific outcome. Oh, I have to have this, or it has to look this way, that can actually close us off to the magic that's happening, that is maybe moving us in the direction that we actually want to be going. But because it isn't how we thought it was going to work, we don't see it, we don't receive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I'll throw you on the spot a little bit. Can you think of
Mhm.
a time in your life, an example of that specific thing?
Yeah, it's really fun because this year, I the way my business was working really melted down, and I knew it was time to restructure. And I didn't know how I wanted that to be, right? And so I worked with, I like to work, I call them sticky note statements. I'm constantly working with thoughts that I'm practicing making my norm.
Mhm.
And this was a thought that I'm still working with every day, but it was like, okay, I knew my goal for what I want for my business. And I know that I want to get there by providing really transformational coaching and opportunities for people, right? Like those I had set, those I'm committed to. And I said, my brain is going to figure out how to do this. I'm like, my brain is going to figure out how to do it. I don't currently know what it is, but I'm telling my brain it's going to figure out how to do it. And the last piece of this was, and any inspiration, any intuitive hits that come through that have that spark of energy, I'm going to act on them even if I don't logically yet know how they're going to fit into a business plan.
Mm.
So that was a balance, a way that I balanced clarity on where I'm moving while also being really open and receptive to it coming in non-linear ways.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. That's a perfect example.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a couple of months, I wallowed around and I have no idea, but I'm just going to keep repeating this to myself. And then sparks of intuition started coming through, and I started taking action on things that I was like, I don't know what these are building. I don't know what kind of business plan these are turning into, but I'm going to be taking this action. And then, boom, a business plan dropped in my lap, and I started creating an entirely new version of my business that's attracting people in, and it's working, and the business is thriving, and we're just getting started. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to hear a little bit more about that too shortly here. Yeah, really exciting. I relate to that. I was sharing with you, I probably didn't go into all of it, but I have been making some changes this year as well. And I think the way I'm experiencing it is initially it came in through like really starting to see like where I was gripping, like the level of control I was still trying to have on things. And I
Yeah.
don't think I think that I also imagined that I think would like to think that I wasn't controlling. And then I believe that when I looked at where I was, that I had to do the opposite as like a way to not have control would be to like just let it all go. And I realized for me, I know this seems overly simple, but I was really just asking, being called to presence. What is in the moment right now? And what is my decision right now that feels good? That's not oblivious to what's happening around me or where I want to go, but I'm not actually looking at if I do this, then what will that create? And then what will that create? And then what will that create? And I was always going several steps further to try to see. It's almost like I would jump several steps forward and look back to see if the decision I was making would work
Right.
instead of just
Yeah.
like, doing it in what felt right now and listening to my body and listening to
Yeah.
my intuition.
Yeah. I love that. It's creating a third way where we've been in this world that was all focused on that, right? Like it was all plan, logistics, think about the next 10 steps, very strategic in that way from the mind. And then there was this binary of if I don't like that, if that doesn't resonate and I reject that, then the opposite, it must be the opposite. It must be this passive, like I'm going with the flow, the universe is creating for me. And there's this in between, which is no, I have deep desires and agency. And I'm my energy is wanting to move in a certain direction or even create a certain outcome. And I'm not going to hyper like cognate about it in order to create it, but neither am I going to go into this completely passive, like whatever happens is perfect. Whatever happens is perfect. But like that passive,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm just at
I guess
the
it was supposed to happen.
it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And so finding that like holding of your like your energy, your desire, your intention, and doing it in this flow at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, making it happen.
Huh. Tell me this just popped through also. Tell me a little bit when you're working with clients, if folks are reading your book, if they're trying to integrate a big experience into their life. I feel like one of the stickiest points for a lot of folks is either their partnership or their professional life. And I
Mhm.
wonder if what are your thoughts there? Give me
Yeah,
what you got.
yeah, yeah. It goes back to this I'm growing and evolving in secret, and I don't know how to bring that out into the world.
Mhm.
And the best way that I see it work is when people are willing to be in a process of growing and evolving and allowing that to be witnessed, at least at a subtle or energetic level. We tend to want to get to the next level and then release that into the world. But that just amplifies this disconnect because the world out here was created by who we were before. And so we feel like we've grown all of this, and then we're pissed at the relationship or the job or the structures for not seeing us for who we've become. But that's because we're not allowing ourselves to be seen for who we're becoming along the way.
Mhm.
And that's a skill set that can be learned of how to let yourself be seen while you are in a growth process.
Mhm. Mhm. Mm. Yes, that's some good stuff right there. Thank you. Uh-huh. And so many applications.
Mhm.
Okay, so tell me what are you feeling especially audacious about in your life right now?
Oh my gosh. So I have, what am I feeling especially audacious about? But this is so random, but I don't like the word audacious and I love the word audacity, just like how they come out of my mouth. Isn't that funny? So when I'm speaking, I'm like constantly figuring out, okay, how can I structure the grammar that the right word in this sentence is to use? Like I'm doing it with audacity instead of
Yeah.
I'm being audacious.
Well, to
Really
be
funny.
honest, I wasn't actually sure if audacious was the correct If it was a word or not.
I mean, they're the same word, right? But audacity is the one that there's something about that T sound, maybe, that I just love.
Yes.
So I was recently on retreat with my one of my teachers, and this energy came through. It had actually been like sneaking its way in, and some of the language had already been coming in, but boom, all of a sudden I realized that I was being initiated into a new phase of me, a new phase of my life. And the words that go with that are a little spicy. People either love it or they hate it. I'm in my villain era.
Mm-hmm.
And that has a lot of audacity to me because, like I said, people love it or they hate it. To me, being a villain means you can see the rules that are just made up and that don't actually need to be followed. And you can see what is ultimately what is in service, what is the best outcome, what it is that you want to create. And so you just do that regardless of whether it breaks the rules and regardless of whether there are people who are all like about the fact that you're breaking the rules. And I feel so grounded in this because it is so clear to me. Like, I have done the depth plunge into myself, and I know that my soul level desires are in service of the greatest good for the whole. And so I can fully claim being a villain because I know that if I get exactly what I want, it's actually in service of the whole and not selfish or harmful in some way. And I think that's where a lot of people get triggered by the language of villain, is because they're like, oh, if you are getting what you want, then you're causing harm in some way. You must be a bad guy in some way. And I'm like, no, because I know that what I want is actually the best possible thing. It's consciousness evolution. And so me getting what I want means everybody wins.
Yeah. It's different language, but to me, the way you're describing how that feels to you, it sounds like full commitment to just being who you actually are all the way, without
Yeah.
hesitation, without apology, without accommodating other people, and just trusting that.
Yeah. 100%. Exactly.
That's fucking powerful.
Mm-hmm. I see you, sister.
Yeah, I love it. But it's edgy for you, right? Or tell me a little bit about how you're playing with this right now.
So my business is my spiritual practice.
Yeah.
This was something that became really clear to me in a dieta a couple of years ago because I'd always carried a bit of shame about how I struggled to have a really dedicated, specific lineage of spiritual practice.
Mm.
And when I realized that my business it's what gets me up out of bed in the morning, it's what keeps me on my growth edge and constantly confronting my shadows and amplifying my strengths, and it is the way I'm creating impact out into the world. I was like, what is a spiritual practice if not for those things? And so right now, my devotional practice inside of that is every day I take action from villain energy.
Mm.
And I know what my villain energy feels, right? And that's the words I use for it. And I get into that and I feel that fully in my body. And I take action that sometimes is very strategic and linear. And sometimes I'm like, I have no idea this is part of my business plan, but it's in alignment with that energy and it amplifies it and it feels juicy and delightful. I forget what your question was, but
I forgot too,
that's what
but
came
that's
through.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So it sounds like you're like actively integrating that part of you, that connection, that experience into your life right now.
yeah. And actually, I love that you phrased it that way because that's a big piece of what I teach in integration is that anything that you felt or experienced in your powerful ceremony, your experience, whatever it was, that was a teacher. That the answer isn't to keep going back to that substance or keep going back to that mountaintop to find that feeling. But what you've just learned is that feeling exists inside of you, that you are capable of reaching that feeling or that state of consciousness in your being, and learning how to feel that every day as a place to act from, as a place to make decisions from. So often we have it the opposite. We're like, what do I engineer out in my world? What do I have to have accomplished? Or what medicine do I have to be working with in order to get that feeling inside of me? And it's no, learn how to cultivate and connect with that feeling and then decide what you're going to do. And that will create more in your life that then reflects more of that feeling back to you. It's a positive feedback loop in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That feels really good. That and such a great description, I think, of what integration really is.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
what are we doing here? This is what we're doing.
Yeah. And who am I? This is who I am.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll certainly share the link to your website where people can find your book. Again, that's called Honor Your Medicine. And again, I just really want to emphasize that we use the word integration a lot now with psychedelic experiences, but this is a practice just in general that you can use to change your life, to transform who you are, and to take those powerful experiences, transformative events, peak experiences, even traumatic experiences, and gain the wisdom and the teaching that are there and bring that into your daily life. If you've had an awakening, if you've had a credible experience with nature, if you've had some people just suddenly wake up and feel like they're a different person. So
Yeah.
it sounds like this kind of practice can be applied to lots of different circumstances.
Yeah. I really say that this book is, it's a coaching resource.
Mhm.
It's not a psychedelic resource. And a lot of the language in it happens to be talking to that audience, but there's no information in there about how to work with plant medicine or what substances or anything. It is all about what you do after you've had a powerful experience and how you use that to become who you now realize that you want to be or who you really are.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about, so you said you're launching something new. Can we hear about that?
Yes. I've got a couple of, I have a heist team for my fellow villain era women. So this is my high level coaching community for women who are already feeling it, right? Like they're already ready to go and know that like the world's not necessarily ready for that. And so we want to have our spaces where we're cultivating that, we're reflecting that back to each other, and we're like recalibrating our nervous systems to be able to go out and be that incredible, juicy villain or however you identify it in your life.
Mm.
So I have that piece going on. And then I have much bigger offer for women, which is my Audacity membership. It's a community for women living their purpose. And my belief is your purpose is to express the fullness of yourself to the most that you can. And by doing so, to create more thriving for all. Like that is everybody's purpose. We're all figuring out what are the pieces of that for our particular makeup, right? But so women who are on that track, living their life, I have a monthly membership that includes community networking, coaching calls, ongoing courses. We share resources in there. There's a lot of really juicy stuff going on in that space.
Ooh, that sounds, they both sound amazing, but especially the membership, just from what I know from you personally and what I've seen as a byproduct of your work, is I think that you really have a knack for understanding how to help people take those experiences or take what they're learning and make those changes in their everyday, like daily experiences. And I think that's
Yeah.
where the power
Yeah, because
is.
what I found, a lot of the women who are in Audacity, they've been taking other trainings, like they did a yoga certification or they're getting trained in astrology or different things, right? They're exploring courses where they're learning skills and they're maybe developing their spiritual skills or their business practices, but there's still that gap between all of the power and gifts that I know that I have to offer and how do I actually do that? I'm
Mhm.
still really shy. This is what a lot of them are feeling, is that they're still really shy to actually put that out into the world. And that's where Audacity really meets that need of bridging that gap.
That
Yeah.
feels like a great place. to complete. Again, we'll share the links for Betsi Oliver and her work and for her book, Honor Your Medicine. Betsi, I so appreciate you being on here and sharing some of your experience and your wisdom and sharing who you are with us. Thanks so much.
So fun to be with you in this work,
Yeah,
in this world. Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank
All
you for
right.
having me.
Uh-huh. Thanks everybody for being here. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Welcome to today's Q&A episode, where we explore questions about spiritual paths, intuitive gifts, growing a spiritual business, and shamanism. Do you have a question for us? Send us a DM at Holton Healing Arts. This question is from Carmice, one of our Leading with Spirit Facebook group members. And the question is, am I moving in the right direction of my calling? And I wanted to pair this question with our episode from today because we did touch on some of the ways that you can navigate that question. But I also want to clarify that when I work with people around their purpose, one of the areas that is the most confusing is most people think that what they're supposed to do for work or for their career or to make money is the same thing as their purpose. And sometimes it is, but most of the time it isn't. In fact, even though what I do for work, what I do for my career is based on helping people understand their spiritual gifts, and so it's related to my purpose, helping people understand their spiritual gifts isn't my actual purpose. It's just the way that it comes through. And it just so happens that it's something that I really love to do and, has cultivated a way to bring it forward and be able to have that be my profession. But they're not actually the same thing. So that might be helpful for you to begin with clarifying what that really means for you, what your higher purpose means to you. And one of the ways that I think about that is I think if I could teach, the next generation of children, if there was one thing that I could teach them so that they could really know or understand something about themselves or about life, what would that one thing be? And that's a really quick clue into what your higher purpose is. Now, how you deliver that purpose is going to look different for everybody. And that's where we come back to the question, well, it sounds about really being aligned with that higher calling. And so this is where you can tune into your body. So as you're making decisions, keeping that higher calling in mind, whatever that might be for you, checking in with your body. Does this feel like it's aligned? It's going to feel like a click or like a yes in your body. There might still be fear. There probably will still be fear. There'll probably still be some nervousness. You'll probably still feel like, oh my gosh, am I actually doing this? You might even question yourself or question if it's the right choice, but your body is going to feel like it's a yes. And that's one of the best ways to make sure you're aligned and staying on your path. The other thing that can be helpful for you is I share a lot about the inner mastery archetypes. So if you haven't already, go ahead and take the inner mastery archetype assessment. It's going to give you a quick snapshot of who you are, the gifts that you have, what curriculum you're here to learn about, which is also going to tell you quite a lot about your purpose. And it's going to give you access to an activation so that you can be aligned with that and move towards your purpose with clarity and with confidence. Thanks so much again for joining me today. We'll see you next time on Leading with Spirit. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Leading with Spirit. If you did, please share the link for this episode with your biggest takeaway, tagging me at Holton Healing Arts. It would also support me if you subscribed and left a rating and review of the show so we can support more people living their highest purpose. Until next time, journey on.